Hawks Nation, what is going on? Welcome to another episode of the HawksFanTV podcast. I'm your host, Mac, joined by my ever so handsome co-host, Mr. Derek Freese.
How's everyone doing? What up, Hawk Nation?
Yes, sir. I hope everybody's been staying happy and healthy out there the last couple weeks since we last saw you guys. Not too much has happened in Hawks news. You know, there's the continued rumors of the Siakam trade and whatnot, and some, I don't know if it was cryptic out of Trae Young, the business is business tweet. He was more than likely talking about James Harden and Daryl Morey, which is hilarious, but not Hawks related, so we won't go over that too much. But not too much has happened. The schedule was actually released today. We're recording this just after 3:30 this Thursday afternoon here on August 17th. So the schedule was just released, so we haven't been able to digest it too much. So we'll go over the first couple months, maybe a couple marquee games after that, and just a couple of things of note of the schedule. Won't really go over the entire thing just yet. We'll save that for maybe a later episode because the content right now is not exactly flowing towards us. So we'll take what we can get. We also do have another episode, if you will, or edition of the history of the Hawks. This time, as I mentioned in last episode, we'll be going over Mr. Lou Hudson, who was an elite scorer in the early days of the NBA, actually has his jersey retired and is a Hawks legend. Me and Derek, both have some pretty cool facts about him. He said some cool ones off air, so I'm excited to go over that with you guys. But as I mentioned, first we'll get into the schedule. Derek, we're opening up in Charlotte against the Hornets. Let's see, I believe it was
the 25th.
The 25th of October. Our first home game is against the Knicks 2 days later on the 27th. So it's pretty awesome we get to open up against the Knicks. I'm going to try and make it up from Jacksonville for that one. I know my man Derek is going to be there in the six-man section. Derek, how do you feel about getting this home game against the Knicks to start the season?
It is it's a treat, man. I mean, it's always a good environment when the Knicks come to town because I don't know if you followed like migration and socioeconomics, geopolitics of the United States, but it seems like everyone from the Northeast is moving down here. My wife is from Connecticut. Her family are all, Knicks fans, so it's always a fun time. And, even though I love to see them just lose their mind, go crazy, they are some very knowledgeable basketball fans. It's always a fun environment. And I love letting them walk away, go back to their home here in Atlanta after the Hawks just beat their tail. They brag about how great New York is, yet they all live here.
Right. No, I'm excited for that one, man. That's going to be just a fun game, as you kind of mentioned. We've built a little bit of history. I think it kind of fizzled out a little bit. It feels like here recently, I don't see Hawks fans and Knicks fans going at each other's throats as much on Twitter. But it still happens, we still get into it with them every now and then. Sean with a W, I'm calling you out, man. You're a good guy, but we got into it before. But yeah, no, it's nothing too much of note. I think the first month of the schedule is decently favorable for the Hawks. I could see us going, 12-6, maybe even as high as 13-5 in that month. Sure, we're the Hawks, so probably won't go 12-6.
Possible.
But when I was going through the schedule for that first month, I was like, hey man, there's some more favorable games in here. Obviously, in that first month of the schedule, we also have the new in-season tournament, which, to be completely honest, I don't know. I think I am excited about it. I say I think because, maybe it'll end up being kind of lame. I don't know. But the idea of it and the gist of what it is, being early in the season and kind of making the beginning of the season just matter a little bit more. I'm honestly down with that. That is cool to me. But I'm also in the on the aisle of let's just shorten the season, start at Christmas, and play, what was it, 72 games, and then go and start the playoffs. What was it, like in mid-May, the season after the pandemic when we started late? I think that was the perfect schedule. Yes, it did mean that baseball didn't have as much time to itself, so maybe the MLB wouldn't be as happy with that. But I would, if I was the NBA, I'd say, hey, why don't you show me the ratings to back it up that you guys deserve the entire summer to yourselves. But yeah, no. So point being is the in-season tournament is a cool idea, but at the end of the day, it truly is an attempt to make the beginning of the season matter more, not only to the players but to the fans as well. And my argument is at that point, just shorten the season and start on Christmas. So, I mean, can you imagine if opening day on the NBA every year was on Christmas Day? Like, come on, that's dope.
I mean, it's that would be great, but also as what we've seen with like the NFL and now the NBA, they're looking for ways that span the season, looking for ways it seems like. And my thing with the tournament is if the players are actually going to go out there and show and actually care, I'm all for it. Now,
Right, right. And that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's to be determined. You know, if the players do take it serious and it's this really like intense thing because it's these games, these 4 games that matter, and then obviously you get into the tournament in Vegas, like, yeah, if it ends up being like, damn man, that was really exciting. Like, of course I'm all for it, but I feel like it's more of a marketing tactic to make the beginning of the season more meaningful, for lack of a better term. And I just feel like at the end of the day, you just got to shorten the season anyways. I mean, look, last point on it, just to kind of further my argument just a little, so many of these star players, not necessarily on the Hawks. I will say, like, the Hawks players aren't necessarily bad about this, but there are huge names, I'll call them out, Kawhi Leonard most notably, that, take these days off, and all that. And that's fine. I get it. It's load management and all that. And you want to, reserve your body. And Kawhi's dealt with injuries, so maybe he's not the best person to use. But still, this load management idea is not something that has always been there in the NBA. So point being is if these guys are basically telling you that, like, yeah, I'm a star player and you can go ahead and guarantee that 8 to 10 games out of the year I'm not going to play, just go ahead and, cut down the season by 10 games and start it in December and let us basketball fans have basketball even further into the summer. Because, when me and you, man, we were going to a park bar right by the stadium, but right by State Farm Arena, and it's like mid-July. It was awesome. It was incredible. So
yeah, I much rather have it like that than, during I'm a football fan first and foremost. So also less time where it's interfering with football, especially like when college and NFL. It's like, God, but dang. And you got, postseason, with the Braves, being one of the best organizations in all the sports. Like, hopefully we go to the World Series this year. So it's like I'm going to be juggling football, both college and all the teams I love there. My Falcons love the Braves postseason and the Hawks. Like, in which, hey, as a sports fan, I'm all for it. But yeah, it would be nice not have to try to juggle so much at one time. But looking at our schedule, though, getting back to that, Mac, I mean, we got Milwaukee, game 3 at Milwaukee. That's always a fun time. It's always great to, it's been some great battles.
It's good, like a test, to see where the Hawks may be at.
And Onyeka versus, Giannis. Like, it's always interesting. Onyeka always seems to like step up his game a little bit for those.
Oh yeah, he's a Giannis stopper for sure. I do want to break down those in-season tournament games, but before I do, real quick, I looking at it now. The Hawks do have, which, look, beginning of the season, bodies are going to be super fresh, so this isn't that big of a deal. But we got 3 back-to-backs within the first 3.5 weeks of the season, so I mean that ain't no joke. So
and you travel to Mexico City on the 9th to play Orlando, and then get back.
Right, that's right.
Get back to Miami to play the Heat.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a busy schedule for the Hawks. I mean, they got, what is that, 4 road games out of 5 right there for that stretch. And the 5th road game, that's a good segue, is at Detroit, which is going to be our first game in the in-season tournament. I'm just going to go and call that a dub right now. Look, I know Detroit has some young players, some young players that could end up being well. Obviously, Cade Cunningham, most notably. But I got to be honest with you, they're not there yet. Look, they could sneak it by. It's the NBA. It's not like one of those where I think the Hawks are going to go, win 65, 70 games next year. All right, we're definitely going to lose some games, and that's all right. That's how an NBA season goes. So they could win, but I'll go and chalk that up as a dub. The next one is going to be a home game against Philadelphia 3 days later, and that home game against Philadelphia. I got to be honest with you. Like, I don't know what's going on in Philly right now. It seems like they are crumbling beneath them with everything going on with Harden. Embiid wasn't happy. I don't know. I'll be honest with you, man. That's it. It looks bad in Philly right now. So if I was a Philly fan, I'd be worried about this season. I think we can go ahead and guarantee that James Harden won't be in a Sixers uniform when we play him in in mid November. Based on what he said in I believe that was China. I believe that's where he was. But yeah, man, it's Philly. Philly looks like a train wreck right now. So I'll go ahead and chalk that up as a dub too. So first two games, 2-0. What do you think, man?
I'm with it. I mean, always. I mean, Charlotte. I remember at the beginning of last season we did drop a game to them out of nowhere. So you just never know. But if this team is going to be serious, they need to come out the gates hot instead of doing like, oh, we're do what we did the last 2 years. Where we just kind of stumble out the gates and then, end of the year, let's put it all together. Like, if this team wants to be different from the last couple of years, it needs to come out and just come out with a vengeance and put their foot on the neck of the schedule, especially as it's easier now. Because as we flip through, we do see, like you said, in March, it becomes a freaking grind. So
Oh yeah,
with a lot of big time games against big time teams, it should be good. Of course, you never quite know between one NBA season to the next, but
right.
that should be the toughest part of our schedule. So we need to go ahead and jump out and, get top 4 seed in the East and maintain that, because that's what, we should be looking at. Top 4 or 5 team for, I'm done with this play-in stuff. This team should not be a play-in team.
Right. I agree. So the next one in the in-season tournament is going to be the Indiana game. That's actually going to be what is that? Yeah, 4 days later after Philadelphia game. So we have a nice little break there in between Philly and Indiana. It's another home game. I don't think the Pacers are going to be you know what? Actually, I take that back. The Pacers probably will be a better team next year. They signed Bruce Brown. I can't remember who they drafted, but they got Tyrese Halliburton and Benedict Mathurin and they're that could be a good game actually. That could end up being a good one. So we'll see what happens with that. I think that one could go either way, kind of just like the Philly one, to be completely honest. So I say we're looking at maybe 3-0, 2-1, and then we end it with Cleveland right after. We ended in Cleveland at the end of November. Sorry, on the 28th, and that one honestly is the one that I think I'm most worried about of the 4 in-season tournament games. Cleveland, obviously, Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen. They got Isaiah. Isaac Okoro is probably their weakest link, and I mean, look, he's not a stud by any means, but I think he could probably thrive more if his responsibility were higher. Actually, I don't know. I don't watch that much Cavs basketball. I'm not going to pretend that I do. But I will say, that's a damn good squad they have in Cleveland, and to be completely honest, I think they could make the push to be even better this year. So we'll see what happens. But hey, man, I do think 4-0 is actually legitimately possible. We don't have Boston, we don't have Milwaukee, we don't have Miami in there. So I do think going 4-0 in this in-season tournament is possible. And then obviously it'll end in Vegas December 4th through the 8th. December 4th through the 9th, rather, excuse me. So we don't know who we would be playing if we made it. So we'll have to see. But hey, man, I like our chances. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, it's not just a marketing tactic and the players actually take it serious. But it is what it is. We'll wrap up the schedule talk on that. We'll go into the Lou Hudson talk now. I'm so excited to talk about Lou, man. I'll let you start off with Lou. This is a guy that if you've ever been to State Farm Arena and you've looked up and seen a number 23 retired jersey named Hudson, this is this guy, Lou Hudson. I know you're probably thinking to yourself, like, who is that? That's Lou Hudson. This is Sweet Lou, baby. So I'll let Derek take the mic for a minute and then go over Sweet Lou a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, as a Hawks fan, I've been going to State Farm Arena for years, and Phoenix before that. And you always look up and you see retired number 23, Lou Hudson. And to be honest, I've heard of Lou, but until we did this, never really went and saw like a lot of there's not that much old video out there, but went and watched him play, and like just overall right away, you can see this dude is so technically sound. Like, I mean, his jumper, they call him Sweet Lou because of his pull up jumper and mid range jumper. I mean, it's like butter, just freaking smooth. Or was it butter on scallops? um, and the thing is, too, is he rightfully in 2022 got inducted into the Hall of Fame. Dominique Wilkins, he was a mentor to Dominique Wilkins. And Dominique has said flat out, he is not only one of the greatest basketball players of his era, but he's also one of the greatest basketball players to ever play the game. That's high praise coming from Dominique Wilkins right there. And I mean, the guy is just super athletic, could go along with technically sound, high basketball IQ. He was a four-sport athlete out of a Dudley High School in Greensboro, North Carolina. He played quarterback. He played first base. He sprinted, played basketball. He was actually part of the first Black recruiting class at Minnesota. And he was high school teammates with a future NFL Hall of Famer and Charlie Sanders, who, like, just his direct quote about Lewis, he just epitomized like athleticism. The dude's just a freak. And this is from another Hall of Famer in a different sport. Like, dear God, you had two Hall of Famers on your dang high school football team in different sports. And just to show how crazy it was, his junior year, he was an All-American at Minnesota, first team All Big Ten. And in his senior year, he broke his right hand, which is a shooting hand. He played 17 games with a cast on his his dominant hand, which is his right hand. And all he did during that time was score 19.8 points per game with 8.1 rebounds, and did all that with, like I said, a cast on his dominant hand. Dude is a freak. And then overall, he shot, he was scoring 20.4 points per game over his course of 65 games at Minnesota with 8.9 rebounds, shooting 47% from the field. He not only got drafted by the St. Louis Hawks in 1966, he also got drafted by the Dallas Cowboys at wide receiver. That's how much of an athlete this guy was. At 6'5", like, the dude he could play, the two through the three. I mean, 2 through the 4. Oh, wow. Messing all that up. But he was the 1967 NBA All-Rookie team. And that team also had Hall of Famers on it, too, when they were the St. Louis. Hall of Famers and Lenny Wilkins. Zeno, oh man, I can't read my writing. Beatley, Richie Guerin, and Red Thorne. His second season, he actually had to serve in the military because, 68 Vietnam era. He only got to play 46 games, served in the military, and in 68 he came back to Atlanta. Or they came to Atlanta. St. Louis moved to Atlanta. He averaged 24 points per game for 5 straight years. Over 24 points a game from the 1969-70 season on. He and Pistol Pete Maravich, which a lot of people don't realize is, he was him and Lou Hudson they did something that only one other duo of teammates had done prior to them, which is score over 2,000 points in a season at the same time. The first people to do it was the logo himself, Jerry West, and Egan Baylor. And I messed it up there. But Pistol Pete Maravich, another, Hall of Fame guy. A lot of people don't know his from his hometown. You have Theo Vaughn for you young guys out there that know the internet personality. You also have Lee Harvey Oswald, the guy that shot Kennedy, allegedly. So his town was full of, a lot of great shooters coming from that town.
Oh yeah. No, it's Lou Hudson was absolute legend, man. As you said, he was all NBA rookie in 1967. He, was an elite scorer at a time where, when you look at all the top scorers in the leagues at that point, most of them were big men because it was just, Wilt and Kareem and these big guys just dominating, and Bill Russell as well, dominating because of their pure size over these guys that, I mean, I'm not saying that it was just because they were big, they were skilled players as well, but I don't think the size for the rest of society had caught up kind of like it has now. But yeah, no, man, it's something that I thought was really cool about him, because I love that you said it. He was drafted by the St. Louis Hawks. So he did have a few seasons in St. Louis, but actually in 1968, when our franchise moved to the great city of Atlanta, the first person to score a basket in Atlanta Hawks history was none other than Sweet Lou Hudson. So, this guy, as you said, before 2022, and it's actually hilarious when I first looked him up. Years ago, he wasn't in the Hall of Fame, and I remember being like, "Why is this guy not in the Hall of Fame?" So awesome that obviously he was very recently inducted. It's more than deserved on his end. This is a guy that, as you said, I actually have the note that he had a 7-year stretch where he averaged 24.8 points a game. He's a 6-time NBA All-Star, All-NBA second team in 1970. He was actually the 4th overall pick coming out of Minnesota. As you said, name Sweet Lou for that smooth and super effective jump shot that he had, which, when you see a smooth jump shot, like, I know some people may be saying, like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? Honestly, like Steph Curry, like, just this smooth jump shot, man. It's just
Pure shooter.
He's
He's a
pure.
pure
Exactly.
shooter.
He's a pure shooter, man. And that was something at that point, man, back in the 60s and early 70s. That wasn't something that was, super common. So I think he kind of honestly revolutionized that in a way, man. I know that may be a little bit of a jump in some people's eyes for me to say that, but I really do. And at the time of him retiring, man, he was such an elite scorer that he was actually the 12th highest scorer in NBA history, scoring almost 18,000 points, which, dude, 18,000 points back then is insane. And I guarantee you the 11 guys in front of him, 7 or 8 of them were big men. Guarantee it. Like, I can guarantee it, man. So, this is a guy that, I look, I have to know, I got to say it too. He played 46 games in the 1967 season. I mean, 1969 season. Sorry. Played 46 games due to the military service, but still averaged 13 points. Like, I mean, to come back from fucking, excuse my French, from war and still be able to put up points, man. I don't know, man. That is incredibly impressive. I do think something that is of note of Lou Hudson that I noticed as I was looking at his, career averages. He obviously did, very well scoring in season, but dude turned it on in the playoffs, man. He turned it on in the playoffs. So this guy, it's just literally almost every single statistical category, he had higher averages in the playoffs. And I mean, when I say higher, like much higher, like it's this dude turned it on in the playoffs. So the definition of clutch, man. Career high 57 points against the Bulls in 69. I thought this one was awesome. He got 49 points in 1970 against the Trailblazers, 0 assists, just straight buckets. Straight buckets, man. I love it.
What's the game plan? Give me the ball.
Exactly, man. Remember when Terrence Ross, like, years ago, got the 31 and it was 0, 0, 0, 0 for the rest of the stat sheet. I mean, that's the start of that, man. So I don't know. Lou Hudson is a guy that he got his flowers here recently, and I'm so glad that he did. So I just, is a guy that deserves a ton of praise and deserves his number being retired, which obviously he does have that for the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah, like you said, his stats in the playoffs are even better than the regular seasons. Yes, he didn't win a championship, and he actually has a funny quote about that. And he's like, "I talked to the guys that won championships, and hey," he said, "you work your tail off, your chips fall to LA." He goes, "But you know what? At the end of the day, I'm still better than you." But he did, like, his career averages. Like, he played 890 games. That's a long dang time, especially back then when they didn't have the load management that we have today. He's averaged 20.2 points per game, 4.4 rebounds, 2.7 assists, and 1.4 steals across those 890 games, while shooting almost 50% from the field at 0.489 and at 0.797 from the free throw strike. But the playoffs, it's 21.3 points per game, 5.3 rebounds, and still 2.7 assists. But that's just absolutely incredible. And then the guy himself, let's not just talk about the basketball, like what he did in basketball. The guy was apparently also a very stand-up dude as well. He won the humanitarian award from the retired NBA Players Association. He also did some, radio announcing for the Hawks after he retired. He retired in 1979. He did spend the last 2 years with the Lakers out there with Hakeem and them before the Showtime Lakers came about. And he sold restaurant equipment. In 1984, he moved to Park City, Utah. He became a real estate investor. He served on the Park City Council, and it is estimated and it's believed that he is the first Black elected official in the state of Utah.
Wow. There you go, Lou. Hell yeah, man. Making history on and off the court. We love that, man. That's awesome. Yeah, no, dude, this guy is an absolute legend. I think it's just one of those where when you go back and look at the first 40 years of the existence of the NBA, you could very strongly make an argument that Lou Hudson was a top 20 player. So it's just it's something where as Hawks, I don't want to say he's forgotten. It's just that it happened a long time ago. I'm not calling out any young Hawks fans for not necessarily knowing Lou Hudson. But I'm hoping any young Hawks fan that is listening to this right now is going to go look up Lou Hudson, look up some stats. They may be a little grainy, but look up some highlights.
He even has an instructional video. That's how technically sound this guy was. Like,
yeah, no,
talks about this is where you're putting your foot on this. Like, he was raw. He was an athletic specimen who also just technically just sound.
Oh yeah, no, he was a badass, man. He was a badass. So this is a guy that is obviously in the Basketball Hall of Fame. He's an Atlanta Hawks legend. He's got his jersey retired. He's somebody that for a long time was a top 15, top 20 scorer in league history. It's an honor to say that he did get to rock the Atlanta Hawk jersey and be an Atlanta Hawk. I picked Lou Hudson when we were, picking our topics for the history of the Hawks because, it's exactly why we did it. I said it when we were going into it. I understand that the Hawks don't feel like they're the most historical team ever because we only have one championship. I get that, but honestly, when you look at who has the most championships, number of titles by teams, it's Boston and LA with a million each. And you know who's second? Chicago is 6. So this idea that Boston and LA have owned the NBA when it comes to winning championships. Like they have hoarded titles. So don't think your team. I'm not just talking to Hawks fans. I'm talking to any fan base out there. Don't think your team isn't got a deep, rich history just because you're not loaded and littered with championships. So Lou Hudson is a guy that is an NBA legend, and he's an Atlanta Hawk. Remember that. So it's not just Dominique Wilkins. It's not just the Spud Webbs. It's not just Joe Johnson of recently. We have legends. We have NBA Hall of Famers that helped create a foundation of what the NBA is today. So incredibly honored to have Lou Hudson, and incredibly happy for him that he got into the Hall. So, but yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap up this week's episode on that. As I said, we're doing bi-weekly, so be looking out for an episode here in another couple of weeks. We will pick out another Hawks history topic to go over with you guys. Hopefully, there's some Hawks news. Maybe a trade has happened at this point. I don't really give a hoot if it does happen or not, man, because I got to be honest, I'm kind of over it. But we will still be here, no matter what news comes, my friends. We will still be here giving you Hawks news in this glorious podcast that we produce for you guys. So as always, thank you guys for the support. Check us out on, can't believe I'm saying this instead of Twitter. Check us out on X and Instagram at HawksFanTV.com. I mean at HawksFanTV. Go to our website to check out all of our articles and some other cool content as well at HawksFanTV.com. And as always, thanks for the support, guys.
Yeah, thank you all for the support. Like I said, if anyone has any suggestions for us, we'd love to hear from you. Hit us up, Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it today.
You know what? Hit me up on Twitter, man. Don't hit me up.
Instagram, whatever. Love to hear from y'all. But hey, as always, go Hawks.
Go Hawks, baby.